Hello everybody, this is Kim Shivler. Welcome. Today we're actually going to build a very basic child theme for a WordPress theme. Some of you came along as I built my Podcast a Day site. We're still in the process of getting that launched. One of the things we want to do is create a child theme. If you'll remember, we used the Divi theme in that, and I love this theme. However, there are a few changes I want to make, and whenever you want to customize a theme, you should create a child theme, which is basically a subset of that theme, which allows you to hold your files and your items that you've customized. That way, you don't lose them when you update the theme. Otherwise, you spend time, update the theme, and poof, it's all gone. So one of the things I like to change on Divi is see how here where it says designed by elegant themes empowered by WordPress. A lot of people want to take that out and put their own company, their own information, and maybe even their copyright there. And that's what I'm going to do here. Sometimes people leave the powered by WordPress, but for our example today, I'm going to take everything out and I'm going to put in podcastaday.com and my copyright. So what I have done, I have used FTP, File Transfer Protocol, to go into the Divi theme files and copy them down to my directory that I have created. I've created a directory called Divi-child, and that's because it's recommended naming structure to name the theme or a child theme, the name of the main theme -child. You don't have to do it, but it is recommended, sort of standard protocol, so I'm going to stick with that today. Now, this is getting into a little bit of an intermediate topic, but stick with me, it's not too bad. A lot of my customers are used to FTP. Great, you're going to follow right along. For those of you that are not so sure of FTP or don't have a client configured yet, that will be the next lesson coming up in the next few days or week. And if you want to make sure you get that information when it posts, make sure you're on the mailing list at whiteglovewebtraining.com. So I have done the two things that are absolutely required to build a child theme in the recommended manner. I have gone into a text editor. Please note, you must use a text editor here, not a word processor. We need a text editor. If you're using a Mac, Text Edit on the Mac is available by default. If you're on Windows, Notepad is available by default. Those are both text editors. I am actually using on a Mac a program called Text Wrangler. It is free. And the reason I like it is it actually will do syntax markup and line number for when you're coding. Now for our little quickie here, I don't know that it's necessary, but as you look at larger files, for example, when we look at the footer, you could see that if you were going to deal with that, the value of having a little bit more documentation there to help you navigate. So the first thing we're going to make is our style.css. Now the main site or the main theme's style.css will still be in its directory. We're going to create one under our Divi child directory. And I have, in my Evernote, I keep a copy of the default information that needs to be in this file. I build these a lot, so I just keep this in Evernote, and it's easy. So I'm going to paste that in. I got an extra space in. So this is going to be the name of our theme, which is Divi Child. The URL, which is podcastaday.com. Divi-child. Now this does have to be exact to your folder. So if you had Divi child altogether with no dash, it would need to be there. This is the folder name. This is where we're pointing. So we're going to put Divi child again. As far as your author name, this is actually optional, but it's a nice idea to put it in there. I'm going to just put my website in. If you're building child themes for other people, then you will probably want to put your own information in here. The template is Divi, and that's important. This is our first version, so I'm leaving it at 1. The text information is Divi child. And if you wanted to put tags in here, maybe it was responsive, Google friendly, etc., you could do that too. I'm not going to. And then here underneath this area is where our theme customization is. Now, please note, this lesson is a little bit more intermediate, but it's still pretty much copy and paste. I'm not going through all the details of hand coding this and what everything means. You can just kind of copy and paste and have it here. If you want more, then I suggest you look into the codex, which is going to be a link at the bottom of the blog post on whiteglovewebtraining.com. And you can really get into, start getting into the programming side of it at that point. Now, if I was going to have custom CSS, that's those styles like what my headers look like and what my links look like, etc. I would add that right under here. But we don't have any of those for right now. We're going to actually be customizing a file, a PHP file. So I'm going to just save this. Right. Now I also created the second file that was important, and that's called functions.php. Now your main theme, just like with style.css, the main Divi theme has its own functions.php. We're not pulling that in, we're not changing it. They will both run together. So I am going to come back to my Evernote and scroll down to where I have my PHP information. Copy it and paste it in. Now, if we're using kind of a standard layout theme, best practices, we don't have a lot of additional style sheets, all we need to do is copy and paste this in, save this file, and we're good to go. And in our case, that is the case. So this is really, as I said, still very much an introduction. We're not truly getting into what every single thing means. But basically, just as an overview, what's happening is the underlying functions are pointing to a style sheet that allows you to define new styles. And that's what we're doing now. Wait a second, file save. And this shows you a little bit of why when I mentioned over just a basic text editor, see how we've got the color coding here? If I was coding a long document, these things actually stylistic means something and help the developer, as well as the line numbers. So if you were coding and got an error message, for example, you would have an error message at or near line number X, Y, and Z, and you can come in here and it helps you with debugging. For our purposes, this is not so important. If you had a theme with additional style sheets that were important, you would have to add those also. But for our purposes, we're able to stick with the basic, and many of the themes would allow for that. So I am now going to open up the footer PHP. So here, as you get into a longer file, you can see that if you were working in it or editing it or troubleshooting it, that having a structure that you understood, and of course we're not working on development, so we're not talking about what each of the different color codes are, but it would help you find that. So we're going to come down here to where this is where the footer is. And this is telling us all the design by and the links, etc. I am going to take all of this out. Everything that's between the two paragraph symbols out. So here we've got the starter paragraph, and the ID for that paragraph is footer info. And then the brackets with the /p at the end tells us that's the end of the paragraph. So for this lesson, that's the only HTML you need to know, is that this is marking our paragraph, right? And I am going to put copyright 2015 podcast today. .com. And I'm going to save that. Now, if you want to, instead of having the word copyright, you want the copyright symbol, you have to do that in HTML. There's not a keyboard symbol for that. So the way you would do that if you want to do it is put the ampersand. That's if you hold down your shift key, it's the little and sign on top of the 7 on your number. Write the word copy and put a semicolon. And that's the code for copyright in HTML. So now I'm going to save that. And for my own purposes, since we're not working on FTP today, I have gone ahead and copied the file up using FTP. Once I've done that, I can go into the back end, the dashboard of my website. And here, when I go into the themes, you will notice that next to Divi, I have Divi Child. I can activate that. And now, when I visit the site and scroll down to the footer, it's going to have, here's my copyright symbol. That's that ampersand copy, 2015 podcastaday.com. Here's a big note. If in the past you have seen a child theme created just with a style.css and the @import symbol, that is not considered good programming anymore. It increases the page speed, and it has fallen out of favor for the way to create a child theme. The way we are doing this is how it is recommended, and I do have links to the codex in WordPress.org if you want more information on that. Now, of course, this is just scratching the surface. If you have more complex themes or other options, you may need additional customizations. But for many of the themes, both premium and free, this will work. You'll have a child theme. Now, when I update my theme, I will not lose my footer here. This is Kim Shivler. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you in the next lesson on FTP.